I lived with pain for 6 months. It was a quiet partner in my daily life, and it almost killed me. It did not start with a loud noise or a sudden crash. It began as a whisper, a small ache in my chest that I could easily ignore. I thought it was just the stress of a long work week. I told myself that everyone feels tired sometimes. Life is busy. Our bodies protest in small ways. My body was just talking to me, I thought. I did not know it was screaming for help. This story is not just my own. It is a story many of us live without realizing the danger. We are taught to be strong. We are told to push through discomfort. We learn to silence the complaints of our own bodies. We have jobs to do, families to care for, dreams to chase. There is no time to be sick. There is no space for weakness. So, we make excuses. We say, I will rest this weekend. I will see a doctor when I have more time. But time is not always on our side. My journey taught me this lesson in the hardest way possible. The first time I felt it, I was walking home from the train station. It was a dull pressure, like a heavy book resting on my chest. I stopped for a moment, took a deep breath, and it seemed to go away. I blamed the cold winter air, or maybe the heavy bag I was carrying. It was easy to find a reason that was not serious. I did not want it to be serious. So I chose to believe a simpler, less frightening story. I continued my walk home. By the time I opened my front door, I had almost forgotten about it. The pain was just a brief interruption in a normal day. But the body has a long memory. It does not forget the signals it sends, even if our minds choose to. That small ache was the first chapter of a story that was already being written inside me. It was a warning sign, a gentle tap on the shoulder, My days were filled with simple routines. I would wake up early, I would make coffee, I would get ready for work. My job was demanding, long hours at a desk, staring at a computer screen. I would come home late, exhausted in my bones. My feet would ache from the walk to and from the office. I told myself this was the price of a busy life. Everyone I knew was tired. It felt normal. The pain fit right in with the stress and fatigue. I became an expert at hiding what I felt. At work, a co-worker would ask how I was. I would smile. I'm good. Just busy. At home, I'd talk about my day, but leave out the tightness in my chest. I didn't want to worry them, didn't want to be a burden. It seemed easier to carry the weight alone. The pain was my secret, tucked away. I convinced myself it was strength to keep going. Sometimes the pain made me short of breath. Denial is a comfortable place. It is a warm blanket we pull over our heads when we are afraid of what is outside. My denial was built from 100 small excuses. I felt a sharp pain while lifting a box. I told myself I must have pulled a muscle. It did not require a doctor. It just required time and rest. I put ice on my chest for a few minutes. I believed I had solved the problem. The pain faded. The excuse seemed true. I started having trouble sleeping through the night. I would wake up suddenly, my heart racing, my pajamas damp with sweat. I blamed it on the coffee I drank in the afternoon. I never thought the sleepless nights and the chest pain were connected. I was breaking my illness into small, manageable pieces, easy to dismiss. The whispers of my body soon turned into shouts. The dull ache in my chest was no longer a temporary guest. It was a permanent resident. It was there when I woke up in the morning, and there when I tried to sleep at night. Walking became a monumental effort. The short walk from my car to my office door felt like climbing a mountain. I would arrive at my desk breathing heavily, my heart pounding in my ears. I had to sit for several minutes just to feel normal again. My world was shrinking. I could no longer lie flat on my back. The moment I did, a crushing weight would settle on my chest, making it impossible to breathe. I had to prop myself up with 3, then 4 pillows. Even then, I would wake up gasping for air, a feeling of panic washing over me. It was a Tuesday afternoon. I was in my kitchen trying to make a simple sandwich for lunch. I remember the sunlight streaming through the window, catching the dust motes dancing in the air. It was a perfectly ordinary moment. I reached for a plate in the cupboard above my head. It felt as if a bolt of lightning shot through my chest. The pain was absolute. My knees buckled. This was a different kind of pain. This was the end of something. I fell to the floor. My vision narrowed to a small tunnel, a roaring in my ears like the ocean. I tried to call for help. No sound came out. My body was no longer mine. It convulsed with a pain so immense there was no room for thought. My hand on the cool kitchen tiles. So this is it. The room spun. The window light faded to black. A shattered plate on a kitchen floor next to a person's collapsed body, viewed from a high angle. My partner found me moments later. The scream, unforgettable. A phone clattering to the floor. Hands on my face, trying to get me to respond. The emergency room was a world of bright lights and urgent sounds. Doctors and nurses moved around me like a well-practiced team. They asked questions I could not answer. They spoke a language of numbers and medical terms that I did not understand. An oxygen mask was placed over my face, and the cool air was a small comfort. An IV line was inserted into my arm. I could feel the cold liquid entering my veins. Every action was quick, precise, and serious. A doctor with kind, tired eyes leaned over me. He spoke slowly and clearly. "You're having a major cardiac event," he said. "We need to run some tests immediately to see what's happening with your heart." The words hung in the air, heavy and real. A cardiac event, a heart attack. He held up a small screen that showed a picture of my heart. "This is an angiogram," he explained. "It shows the blood vessels that supply your heart with oxygen. You have a condition called spontaneous coronary artery dissection, or SCAD. It's a tear in the wall of an artery. That tear has caused a blockage, and that blockage is what caused your heart attack." He gave my enemy a name, SCAD. "It was rare," he said, "and not caused by the usual risk factors. It just, happens." He explained that the pain I had been feeling for 6 months was not just in my head. It was the sound of my artery slowly tearing apart, the shortness of breath, the fatigue, the sleepless nights. They were all signs that my heart was being starved of blood and oxygen. My body had not been whispering. It had been sending a clear, sustained signal of distress. The doctor's explanation was a revelation. It was a moment of terrible clarity. All my small excuses, all my justifications, crumbled into dust. The truth was simple. I was dying, and I had let it happen. My new home was a room in the cardiac intensive care unit. It was a place where time was measured not in hours, but in the steady beeps of machines. I was connected to a web of wires and tubes. A monitor above my bed displayed the rhythmic dance of my heartbeat. A line of green light that represented my life. Nurses came and went, their quiet professionalism a constant presence. They checked my vitals, adjusted my medications, and spoke to me in soft, reassuring tones. They were the guardians of my fragile recovery, the frontline soldiers in my fight. The treatment was a delicate balance. The doctors explained that with SCAD, the goal was to manage the symptoms and allow the artery to heal on its own. They gave me medications to thin my blood, to lower my blood pressure, and to control the pain. Every pill I swallowed, every injection I received, was a small step away from the edge. There were days filled with tests. I was wheeled through the quiet hospital corridors to rooms with large, intimidating machines. Echocardiograms that used sound waves to create pictures of my heart. More blood tests to check for enzymes that indicated muscle damage. Each test was a source of anxiety. The doctors needed to know if the tear was stable or if it was getting worse. The threat of emergency surgery was always there, a shadow in the corner of the room. Emotionally, it was a roller coaster. There were moments of profound gratitude and moments of overwhelming fear and despair. I would lie awake at night and wonder if I would see the morning. I thought about all the things I had taken for granted: a simple walk, a deep breath, a night of uninterrupted sleep. In the sterile white room, I was learning the true value of health. It was a lesson taught in the silent, lonely hours of the night. My family became a constant, loving presence in the small, clinical room. They would sit by my bedside for hours, sometimes talking, sometimes just sitting in shared silence. Their faces were a mixture of fear, hope. I could see the strain in their eyes, the worry etched into their foreheads. They tried to be strong for me, to bring a sense of normalcy. They brought me books I could not read and told me stories about the outside world. There were moments that broke my heart. I saw my partner trying to hold back tears while holding my hand. Their touch was gentle, but I could feel the trembling in their fingers. I saw my children at the door, their small faces filled with confusion, worry. They were not allowed in the ICU, but they would wave to me, their small hands pressed against the glass. Waiting became a central part of their lives. They waited for rounds, for test results, for any small sign of improvement. The waiting room became their second home. They created a small island of community with other families, united by a shared, unspoken understanding of what it means to love someone who is fighting for their life. Their support was my anchor. They could not heal my artery, but they were healing my spirit. They were my reason to keep going. They were my reason to face another day of tests and uncertainty. They were my reason to fight my way back to the world of the living. After many days, the doctor came into my room with a small, cautious smile. "The tear is stable," he said. "Your heart is beginning to heal." The words were like the sun breaking through a storm cloud. It was the news we had all been waiting for. A few days later, I was moved out of the ICU and into a regular hospital room. The web of wires was gone. I was left with just a single IV line. The constant beeping of the monitor was replaced by the quieter sounds of the hospital. Cardiac rehabilitation began. My first task was simple. A physical therapist came to my room and said, "Today, we are going to walk to the door and back." It seemed impossible. I sat up on the edge of the bed, my legs weak and unfamiliar. The therapist stood beside me, offering a steady arm. I took one step, then another. My breath was shallow, my heart pounding with the effort. The short walk to the door felt like a marathon, but I made it. A small victory, feeling monumental. Each day I walked a little farther, to the end of the hallway, a full lap around the nurses' station, like a child learning to walk for the first time. Every step a lesson in patience and humility. I had to relearn trust in my body. I had to listen to its limits and respect its need for rest. Joined by other heart patients, scarred chests and slow gaits, we nodded in the hallways, a silent acknowledgement. Learning to walk again, literally and metaphorically. Slowly, signs of my old life returned. The day I left the hospital was bright and cool. As I sat in the wheelchair, waiting to be taken to the car, I felt the sun on my face for the first time in weeks. It was a simple sensation, but it felt profound. I was alive. I had been given a second chance. The world looked different, more vibrant, more precious. The 6 months of pain, the collapse in the kitchen, the fight in the hospital, it had all led to this moment. This quiet, grateful return to the world. A world I had come so close to leaving forever. My body had tried to tell me a story for a very long time. It was a story about a torn artery. It was a story about a starving heart. But I was not listening. I was too busy. I was too stressed. I was too afraid to hear the truth. I learned that pain is a messenger. It is the body's way of saying that something is wrong. It is not a sign of weakness to listen to that message. It is a sign of wisdom. Ignoring pain is not strength. It is a dangerous gamble and the stakes are impossibly high. I had gambled with my life and I had almost lost. Early treatment saves lives. The lesson is simple, but it is one that is easy to forget in our busy lives. Listen to your body. Do not explain away its signals. Do not make excuses. Do not put off seeing a doctor because you are afraid of what you might find out. The truth, even when it is scary, is better than ignorance. Finding out what is wrong is the first step toward making it right. Early diagnosis and early treatment are the most powerful tools we have. They can turn a potential tragedy into a story of survival. My story is proof of that. Now, I live my life differently. I am gentler with myself. I pay attention to the small signals. If I feel tired, I rest. If I feel pain, I ask why. I have learned to be a partner to my body, not its master. My recovery is ongoing, a slow and steady journey. But every day I feel a little stronger. I can now walk around my neighborhood without feeling breathless. I can sleep through the night. Recently, I was able to make a sandwich in my kitchen, in the same spot where I fell. I stood there for a moment, plate in hand, and I smiled. It was a small win, a quiet victory, and it was everything. Subscribe to HopeCare channel for more real-life health stories that save lives.